everyone, welcome back to another figure review. This time we're doing another Marvel Legends review. This time I will be doing Magneto. Now, I'm not going to bother doing the whole origin story for Magneto, because I kind of figure you guys should know who he is by now, if you guys haven't watched the movies where they actually did talk about his origin story, at least a little bit. The only thing you need to know is that he was a Holocaust survivor. Now, he first showed up in X-Men, the X-Men issue 1 in 1963 in September. So, he has the power to control metal, and that makes it a very useful power and would make him a pretty big threat, seeing how he can, if he's powerful enough, can spin the world around if he wanted to. So, he does have some children. He has a daughter named Polaris. He has another daughter called Charlotte Witch, and a son, Quicksilver. He was friends with Professor X. Unfortunately, they ended up on bad terms with each other, despite the fact that you would be like occasional ally to the X-Men. Now, what makes him different from Professor X, the fact that Professor X actually believes that humans and mutants should live in harmony and live side by side instead of fearing of each other, as opposed to Magneto, because of his outlook, he doesn't share the same views as Professor X, because Magneto actually believes that mutants are superior than humans, stuff like that. So I'm not gonna bother doing the whole in-depth of his origin. I will do the talk about his most memorable moments in comic books. I mean, I could talk about his origin story, but it will be like a 20-minute long video or hour long, knowing me. I mean, I'm not exactly good like other YouTubers. Let's see. Leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants. He was even a leader of the Hellfire Club for a time. At some point during the 80s, he almost killed Shadowcat, and this was kind of a big turning point for him because he finally realized he's no different from the Nazis that caused him much pain and horror or something like that. So he decided to become a good guy, and I think he got de-aged too. And this lasted all the way up to the 90s, where he became a bad guy again. And his most memorable act, at least to me, was when he ripped the adamantium out of Wolverine. And that gotta be real painful. Also, there was a point in Graham Morrison's run of the X-Men where he pretended to be Zorn, spelled with an X, and I think he was planning on blowing up the school or blowing up the world. I don't know. Because last time I checked, he was a member of the X-Men when during the whole Axis storyline, where basically good guys were the bad guys and the good guys were the bad guys. I'm sorry, I'm going to say good guys were the bad guys and the bad guys were the good guys. Kind of a nice switch. Original, I'll give it that. So, I haven't exactly been up to date with Marvel. I think he's dead by now. I'm not too sure. So, with the 97 revival series, apparently his role in the series, he's going to be a leader of the X-Men. With that being said, I would take this figure outside the box because I'm done talking about his origin story. Okay, so here we are with this figure outside the box. Now, I'm not going to lie, this figure is pretty cool. I actually had a lot of fun posing with this figure a lot. So, in case you guys don't know this, if you guys weren't around in the 90s, depending how old you guys are, in the cartoons, this is actually based on his appearance in the cartoons. I don't know if this was either intentional or this was done by accident. His first appearance in the show, he had red gloves instead of purple. Now in the comic books, he had purple gloves. And they did later, correct this in, later episodes that he appeared on. So, here's a bit of a, little bit of fact. Anyway, as you can see, like I said, this figure is fantastic, pretty cool. And, with that being said, let's get in with the articulation of his figure. Okay, so his head can go 360 all the way around, go up, and go down. I think it can go this, well, no, actually can't. I can't go to the side, so you can't tilt his head. Well, kind of slightly, I guess. His abs can crunch backwards and forwards. The waist can swivel. Okay, now the arms can go forward. You can't do it backwards because of the cape. You can't raise it, well actually you can raise it up, but you can't raise it completely due to the cape. It's hard plastic, so that kind of sucks. The biceps can swivel. The arms have double hinged knees, double hinged elbows. The hands can swivel. The hands can go up and down. Almost like I got a broken hand, broken wrist. Anyway, yeah. Okay, now the leg can go forward, can go backwards too. You can even do a Van Damme split if you want to. Can't do it because of how thick the cape is. The thighs can swivel. The figure also have double hinge knees. This also have a great ball hinge, which makes it great for dynamic poses. Okay, now that we got that taken care of, let's get on with the accessories. So unfortunately this figure only comes with 2 hands, which is a real bummer. I mean, it would have been cool, like, you know, if it were to come with, you know, maybe 4 extra hands, where this time it's like yellow purple or something like that. It would have been cool, like, you know, if it were to come with, you know, extra heads too. I'm kind of thinking about the Mayfex Magneto, where it, like, has a lot of accessories with the heads. But, you know, it would be cool, like, you know, this figure were to come with, you know, a head without the helmet, or a head that doesn't have the shadow silhouettes, or where the face is like completely covered in darkness. That would have been really cool. Or some kind of, like, you know, magnetic effect. You know, that would be cool. But, you know, instead they just give us a figure with extra hands. So that kind of sucked. I mean, the hands are not too bad. At least it makes it look like he's controlling metal. But, you know, on a whole, you know, for accessories wise, it is a, you know, pretty big bummer. Okay, now that we got that down, let's talk about the sculpting of this figure. Now, before I talk about the sculpting, I just want to talk about the body mold. Now, technically, this is my first Magneto figure that I actually opened. I also have the Age of Apocalypse Magneto and the Professor X Magneto 2-pack. So I'm not really too sure. They're either using the same body mold from the previous Magneto figures, so I wouldn't know. So since we got that down, let's talk about the sculpting. So if we zoom in, if you were to look at the Magneto's gauntlets, you see they're actually sculpted on and not just painted on, and I'm really glad they didn't half-ass it. Let's see. If you look at the trunks, you see they actually did put a lot of detail in the, you know, in the trunks area, where it's not just painted on. So, you know, I thought that was kind of cool. They also did the same thing with the boots, so that was pretty cool. Let's see. I really like the sculpting, what they do with the helmet. If you look real closely, you'll see it's not like, you know, painted on, you know, the purple, you know, how they actually did to, like, sculpt that on. Also the horns too. So that was pretty cool. I really like the fact they didn't half-ass it. Let's see. I like the facial sculpt, so that was pretty cool. Thought the paint job for the eyes was pretty cool around the eyes. You know, give it like a bit of a, like, you know, a mysterious, scary look, I guess. I wouldn't know. I thought that looked kind of cool. I don't know what the hell you call this thing. You know, that thing that's attached to Magneto's cape. So, you know, I'm glad that, you know, they didn't half-ass it. It would be nice if the cape was made out of cloth, though. Speaking of the cape, you know, I really liked what they did with the cape. Again, I'm not sure this is the same cape from the other Magneto figures, so, you know, I wouldn't know. Alright, I am pretty much done talking about this figure. Now, if you guys want to get this figure, you can get on Amazon, eBay, or your local comic book store, or any place that sell Marvel Legends in general. You know, if you guys like this video, you know, please leave a comment, please like, and please subscribe to more videos, because that really would help me out. And, you know, please click on notifications so you'll be notified when the next video is uploaded. You know, because, you know, I've been pretty busy lately, you know, in general, you know, with life, and something got in the way, just like the song in Nevada. So, you know, you may never know when the next video is going to be uploaded, because, you know, I don't get to do this anymore. It's not by choice. It's just I've been really, really busy. So, with that being said, you know, take care. You know, have a nice day or have a nice night, depending where you are. And with that being said, the Gotham Knight is signing out. So here we are with this figure out. Now this figure does look pretty cool. God damn it, what the fuck is wrong? So here we are with this figure out. Now this figure does look pretty cool. I actually had a lot of fun, you know, playing around with this figure, doing poses with the figure while taking out. Now that we got the fuck. Okay, now since we got that taken care of, god damn. Okay, now since we got that taken care of, let's get on with the accessories. God, what the fuck is wrong with this? Okay, now since we got this taken care of, okay, so now that we got that taken care of, let's quit. Okay, now since we got that taken care of, okay, now that we got that taken care of, okay, now that, you know, as Michael Fassbender would say, you know, every time he's using his Magneto powers as Magneto, he always uses. Yeah, I'm getting. Okay, now that we got that taken care of, what's with the? Yeah. Okay, now we got that done. What's with? Yeah. All right, I am pretty much done talking about this figure. Now, if you guys want to get this figure, you can get it on yeah. Alright, I'm pretty much done talking about this figure now. If you guys can